Welcome everyone to another In Conversation with Credabl. We hope this one appeals to many of you that are considering to buy your own private practice. My name is Simon Moore and I'm taking the hot seat today to help steer us through this conversation with a couple of veterans of the industry. This will be a fast-paced 20-minute session with the focus firmly on the considerations you need to do when looking to buy your own private practice, what a lender will look for from you, and how we can assist. As always, there are pros and cons, so we'll give a balanced view on what that means for everyone. And while a balanced conversation is always good, please remember that what we discussed today is not advice and is general in nature. Also, know that we have 10 minutes allocated at the end for a Q&A session for anyone that can stay and has any questions, because after all, this is a conversation. Before we get started, a reminder from me that the live event Q&A section on the right-hand side of your screen is there for you to submit any questions to the team. The curlier questions are better. We've got some pretty experienced presenters today and we'd love to answer those questions for you. If you click on the button with a couple of speech bubbles and question marks to activate the panel, if it's not already there for you. If you're on an Android device, there'll be a slight audio delay when you type that into the Q&A section, but that audio will return pretty quickly for you. So my colleague Lyndall is there typing some comments, so feel free to follow her lead at any point. Throw in some questions, say g'day, let us know where you are, and we'll get those in the Q&A at the end of the session for you. So who are these two industry veterans that we're hearing from today? Firstly, we'll hear from Sydney-based Scott Hutchinson. Having been working in this space for approximately 10 years, he is focused on helping clients acquire or establish practices. Then we'll hear from Sandy Constanti, our very own matriarch of the medical and dental finance industry. She's devoted her life to working with and helping her clients achieve their dreams. And myself, Simon Moore, based here in sunny Queensland. I've spent half of my banking career, almost 20 years, focused on medical and dental professional finance and finding my clients the best deal. I'll be your moderator today as well and your host. Once the team have wrapped up, I'll be back to moderate the Q&A. So please keep those conversations coming in using the live event panel on the right-hand side. So in this webinar, we'll expand upon our private practice checklist ebook, which we designed as a starting point for you, providing clear and readily accessible information on considerations that you need to make when buying or setting up your own private practice. There's a lot to share, so we are focusing today's session entirely on buying an existing practice. And the guide, though, does go through considerations when setting up a private practice from scratch. So we do encourage you to read that and also join our next webinar where we will focus on that topic and you can hear more about it then. So first up, let's head to Scott to tell us a little bit about when do doctors, vets and dentists make this consideration and what are the things they should be paying attention to. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Simon, and thanks everyone for coming along today. As mentioned, if you're a doctor, dentist or vet and you're here today, you've probably considered going into private practice at least once. And depending on what motivates you in regards to working for yourself, or you've got a skill set that you feel like isn't offered in your areas, or you've got a niche skill set, private practice can be a tremendously rewarding path if you choose to take it. Obviously, two types of ways to get into that is starting from scratch or buying into an existing business. So today we're going to be looking at the existing business purchase. And from our point of view, when you start to look at this, there's a couple of things that you need to consider. So the first one would be the actual premises, so the practice premise. So what are you getting as part of the purchase? Are you going to also buy the premise, or are you going to be operating under a tenancy or a lease agreement? So with the lease, very important to understand what the terms of that lease are. Do you have the option to extend the lease? Do you have the option to expand the lease? Do you maybe have the option to buy the practice premise during that lease term? So a lot of people call this first right of refusal. And basically what that means is that the landlord can't sell the premises without you getting the first opportunity to buy. So very important and might be an obvious one, but obviously very important to understand all this. Secondly is the practice financials. So the financials of the business are again going to be very important. So what we look for and what we would like to understand is the revenue of the business, the expenses of the business, the profitability of the business. Is it consistent? And what we mean by that is over the last number of years is the revenue and the financials of the business are consistent. If it's going up, we want to understand why. Obviously, if it's going down, we definitely want to understand why as well. So this will be important to us, to you, and your accountant as well. Thirdly, the equipment and the fit out or the assets that you get as part of your business acquisition. So for someone like a dentist, this will include like the chairs and x-rays or something like that. So you just want to understand what you're getting now as part of the purchase and potentially any future investment that you may need to spend as part of this practice purchase. So will you need to invest some more in this side of things to either bring the practice up to scratch from a technology point of view, or from a fit out point of view? Are you going to looking to expand, or does the practice just need a new overlook to look nice and be what you need it to be? The patient base, again, very important. So a lot of what you're buying will be a patient base. So is the patient base consistent again? So is it growing or has it been falling over the last number of years? How many patients are there on the books? Is there potential for you to offer more services to that patient base? Can you potentially bring some of your patients from your current work over to this practice? So again, very important. And finally, I would say the human resources or the people of the business. So often overlooked and probably underestimated is the people of the business. And as the business owner, you're going to be acquiring some employees that will either be very open to change or may not be open to change. So, and from your point of view, will you have to increase your skill set as a business owner to run the business? So the staffing requirements are often overlooked and can cause a few issues depending on how that's negotiated and by you. But so an example of this would be, we recently had a client of ours acquire a business that on paper was really good, but what they didn't really understand was the amount of investment that was going to take to get the practice up to a level that they were happy with. So they needed to invest in some equipment, some technology, and a consequence of this was that they needed to upskill some of the staff. Some of the staff weren't that interested in upskilling, and the snowball effect of all this was that our client had to spend a lot more time and resources than they initially thought to get the practice to a level that they were comfortable. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is that it's rare that there's a seamless transition into a practice. So the more you can understand prior to going into the practice, the better equipped you'll be to handle that. So I'll pass back to you there, Simon. Thanks.
Thanks there, Scott. Great starting points. Sandy, I know you've got some some pros and cons when considering buying existing practice. Do you want to take us through some of those?
That's right, Simon. Over the years, I have seen many clients in pursuit of becoming practice owners. However, unsure if this is the right path for them. In short, I'll share some quick pros and cons to consider when buying an existing practice. On the positive side, you're securing an instant patient base. You are also securing the ability to earn some income with some certainty, assuming the existing patients are going to continue to come to the practice. On the negative side, you're purchasing somebody else's goodwill and patients. You may lose some of these patients, no guarantees that they will stay with you. You're buying equipment that was somebody else's choice, not your own, and may be old or unsuitable to your practice requirements, hence the example that Scott gave us. To weigh up some of those considerations, you should be asking, why is the vendor selling? Is he or she retiring, or are they moving elsewhere? This can have a significant impact on what the patients will decide to do. You may also consider asking the outgoing owner to stay on to help retain as many of those patients as possible. You should also consider buying a practice that shares your area of specialization to avoid mismatch of expertise. For example, if you're a general dentist, buying an orthodontic practice will not make sense. This will not suit your skills. However, buying a general practice which you can improve on the services offered is a better choice. Once you've identified the type of practice you wish to buy, it's very important to consider what all your financial options are to help you buy this practice. Simon, I think this covers some of the pros and cons.
Interesting point, Sandy, and I agree that all very relevant and important ones to consider. Scott, do you want to take us through in a little bit more detail some of these considerations?
Sure, thanks, Simon. Yeah, look, it's funny. People often come to us and say, "Do I have enough money to buy this practice?" And it's a pretty open-ended question, and it's quite a difficult one to answer. And before we get to that stage, I guess we want to understand a few things from the transaction that are going to be important. So, from a purchasing point of view, what are you actually buying? So, are you getting a full practice? Are you buying a share in the practice? Are you buying units in a trust? And if you are, what does that trust involve? So the legalities of it all are important for us to understand. And then from your end as well, how is the structure going to look? So, are you a sole trader? Are you going to be forming a company? Are you going to be forming a trust, or a partnership? So all these things are important to us before we actually start looking at the numbers. But once we do understand that, the numbers are important, and we've already mentioned that, and we just need to make sure that they stack up. From a finance approval side of things, how far down the road have you already gone for a finance approval, and can you comfortably know that you can commit to a purchase if something pops up? And finally, one of the other things I would say is, have you engaged some of your advisors? So have you got an accountant? Have you got a solicitor? Have you spoken to a lender? It's important from our end to it's important for you to have these people in place prior to really getting too far into a transaction, because each of these people will want to have a look and understand what's happening there. So I guess an example of this would be, we recently did a loan for a client, and it was a really good deal, and it worked out really well. But the only tricky part of it was that he was a doctor who was buying a business that operated out of 2 sites, but only had one set of financials. So when it came to understanding the value of the business, it was difficult to understand which site did what. And once they got their accountant involved and really dug down into the numbers, we worked out that the numbers were a little bit better on the site that the vendor was keeping, and not as strong on the portion that he was selling. And the consequence of this was that our client was able to go back and renegotiate and bring down the price a bit. So it was a really good outcome, and it's going really well these days. But I guess from our perspective, if you can involve your outside advisors as early as possible, generally you'll have a better result and a smoother outcome. So hopefully that answers that for you, Simon. Thanks.
Yeah, definitely, Scott. And agree there that early engagement's key, and surrounding yourself as a medical, dental, or veterinary specialist. You're obviously very specialised in what you do, and like ourselves and financial advisors, accountants, legal professionals, obviously all specialise in what they do, and surrounding yourself with that team who are all on the same page is absolutely vital when going through this process, and like you say, doing it early. So I guess once we've been through all the considerations to buy an existing practice, research is done, we contact Credabl, get all our ducks lined up, and feel like we're ready to purchase the private practice. What do I need to do next, Sandy, to make that dream come true?
Well, the first thing, Simon, that I would say to you is congratulations on taking the first step to owning your own practice. Then I will work with you to get the lending process right. These can usually take up to 24 hours depending on the loan requirements. There are 4 stages to the lending process. The first stage is to gather as much information as possible. For example, we need practice details, practice financial information. We need the buyer's details, buyer's financial information and financial position, the amount of funding required, the legal entities for the purchase of the practice. Is that a sole trader, a trust, a company? Just the way that Scott has mentioned earlier. Then once we've got all this information, we create the credit submission and put it in for an approval. At this stage, the approval will come through with conditions. Then after the approval process, we will get to the document stage where we ask you for a contract of sale and the lease on the premises to prepare the loan documents. Once we've got the loan documents, then the 4th step is to move into settlement. The solicitors will instruct all parties when settlement is. You will require to satisfy all the conditions of reapproval at this stage, and then we settle. While we do the job from our end, I want to give you top tips on how you can assist us in the lending process. Have your financial information up to date. Be available to answer the questions in regards to the new practice that you're buying. You don't need to know all the answers. Engage specialist advisors if needed as soon as possible, including your accountant, your solicitor, your insurance. I think this last point about engaging the right specialist is more important in my opinion, Simon.
Agree 100%, Sandy, and I think the main point is there, don't feel like you have to go this alone, and partner with people that can help get you there. So due diligence is done, finance approval in place. Scotty, what comes next?
Well, this is where you, I guess, take the leap of faith. So this is more of the legal side of things. So once you're ready to commit, the first thing that you'll probably do is sign a contract for sale. So some people will say you exchange contracts, but from here on in, you're probably needing to provide a deposit, so maybe 5-10%. You and your solicitor will obviously review the contract, and also if you're leasing the premise, you'll need to review the lease and satisfy any conditions to do with the lease. From our end, you'll pass on that contract for sale and also the lease, and we'll hand that off to our solicitors who will review all those and ensure that our loan documents are in line with them. During this period as well, you'll probably have some conditions on both the lease, the contract, and potentially on the finance that you'll need to satisfy. And during this whole process, it's usually somewhere between 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the timeframes. And once we get closer to settlement and you'll have signed all the loan documents, will you pass everything back to our solicitors, who will communicate with your solicitors about settlement. So that'll involve them telling us where all the funds need to go as such. So your solicitor will let us know where those funds need to go. And a couple of days before settlement, we'll have that all prepared. And then look, the final stage is settlement. So this is usually the easiest part of the process. We send the funds and you get a business. And so congratulations. Hopefully it's an exciting day. But what I will say is that we do a lot of these. So we're here to help. I'm assuming we've seen most of the transactions that take place. So from our end, we're hopefully a good source of advice. Your accountants and solicitors are also going to be very important during this process. And if anyone out there needs a solicitor or an accountant, we obviously know a lot of good people and more than happy to pass on any details if anyone needs that. So that's basically it, Simon. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Scott. So this takes us to the end of the webinar. We'll stay around for the next 10 minutes answering some questions. Remind you that we do have the private practice checklist that covers a lot of this information. And this will be shared with everybody who has registered for today's webinar, or you can head over to our website to get a copy of that also. Okay, so on to some questions that have come in during the webinar today. Please also continue if you've got any questions to share them with Lyndall, and she'll get them across to us to answer. But we'll go through a few of these questions now. We'll start with Sandy. The questions come in: what are some of the documents a financier will require to make buying a practice possible?
Okay, Simon, we do require a lot of paperwork. So the first thing that we need to do is to identify you as the buyer. So we need a photo ID, copy of your driver's license, passport or Medicare card, copy of your current financials or tax returns, copy of the proposed practice financials and tax returns. How much do you wish to borrow? What security is on offer? Is it half a practice? Is that shares? Is that the whole practice? Copy of the report from a sales agent if the vendor has employed one. Any information that you have for the suitability of the practice and what you can bring to the table to make it more successful. The structure that you wish to borrow and purchase the practice under. All this information will help the financier, will help us to assess your loan to give you a speedy approval. Thanks, Simon.
Thanks, Sandy. That's great. I might take this next question coming from Paul up here in Queensland. Given the current climate, are you still providing finance to people to buy or set up practices? The answer is yes, we're very much open for business. Obviously, we've talked a lot today about going through the processes of due diligence. As long as a transaction makes sense. Obviously, we do consider the impacts of COVID, and you know, obviously there is a little bit of an unknown piece moving forward in relation to that. But as long as the transaction makes sense, then we are absolutely still supporting practices every day to establish practices and buy existing practices and helping our medical professional clients with their finance needs. So the answer to that is yes, we are absolutely still providing that sort of funding. Scott, might move on to a question for you from the ACT that's come in from John. Does the Credabl consultant usually advise on how much they think a client should pay for a practice?
Thanks, Simon. Look, the short answer would be no, but what we do is, as we said, we do see a lot of these transactions, so we've got a pretty good feel for what is there or thereabouts. I guess our main job is to make sure that when you're looking to purchase a practice, based on the information we have, is that you can afford to repay the loan back to us. So short answer would be we don't advise on how much a practice is worth. We do have a pretty good idea of what they're worth, and we'll operate in those parameters. But at the end of the day, it's about you being comfortable with the purchase price and for us to be comfortable that you're not going to be overexerted in repaying the debt that you pay for that purchase. So I think I'll leave it at that. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, that's good, Scott. I might just, another question that sort of dovetails into that that's come in as well. What happens if I'm going to approve for a certain amount to buy the practice and I want to or need to offer a little bit more? Do you want to just sort of build on that further, Scott?
Yeah, happy to. Look, the short answer would be we just need to understand what's changed from our original approval. It's very rare that happens and we're not fine with it. So as long as we understand what's happened with the transaction, if it's a small increase, maybe some values have changed along the way, that's typically fine. So yeah, look, as long as we understand what's happening, then I would assume we'd have no problems.
Yeah, that's great. Another question that's come in on the live chat, how long does the due diligence process usually take and who does this involve? Sandy, do you want to take that one?
Of course. The due diligence takes as long as it will take you to provide us with the information. The quicker we get the information, quicker we can give you an answer. We have given clients an answer within 2 hours sometimes, as long as we've got all the right information. Sometimes getting that information might take a little bit longer. However, we try and be as quick as we possibly can. Thanks, Simon.
That's great. Question that's come in from Victoria. Do we need to meet face-to-face, or can this all be done online? I think I'll take that one on. Look, obviously, from our perspective, relationships are very important, and meeting face-to-face is always preferable. However, obviously, in the current COVID environment, that's not always possible, and we fully appreciate that. Our whole Credabl team have spent a lot of time doing Skype and Zoom meetings, FaceTimes. I think a couple of us have even ended up having house party meetings with some of our clients as well. So we can certainly assist by meeting face-to-face or through technology. And obviously we appreciate that your time is very important and very short at some time as well. And we can certainly make sure that our communication over email and phone and things like that is very to the point and concise when you need it. So certainly open to meeting however you need us to meet to get a transaction done for you. And I think we've just got one more question that I'll throw to Sandy that's come in. How do you value a practice?
Oh, that's a hard one, Simon. There are quite a few ways to value a practice. One is taking the turnover and maybe a percentage of the turnover, could be 50 to 60% of the turnover plus the fixtures and fittings and equipment. The other way that you can value a practice is through EBITDA or net profit, times it by a multiple. Sometimes, and in most cases, is times it by 3. And there is a balance between the two, where sometimes you can take both and take the medium of those if one doesn't make sense above the other.
That's great. Thanks, Sandy. And we've just got time for one more question. Can Credabl assist with locating or finding a practice for sale? Scott, do you want to take that one?
Sure, Simon. Yeah, look, the short answer is yes. We obviously have a lot of people that we chat to and speak to who are involved in practices. There's also some dedicated companies out there that sell practices. So in the dental space, there's a couple out there that we work very closely with. So short answer is yes. We do hear about some practices being sold that may or may not be out on the market as such. So look, there are some other specialists out there who do that as their job. So look, always depending on what modality you're in, there's always some opportunities out there. So yeah, happy to try and help where we can.
Thanks, Scott. That's great. So that takes us to the end of our webinar today. Thank you all so much for taking the time to join us. Buying a private practice, it may be for you. And I guess now it's down to contacting the team at Credabl and understanding what are your options. And there are plenty of options out there for you. If you have any more questions or messages, please continue to use the live Q&A section for the next short while. And just also remember, we've got our live chat option on our website as well, which our team do man 24 hours a day. So don't be surprised to get a response at all hours of the evening as well if you do jump on there at times. Sandy, Scott, thank you as always. Lovely to hear from you both and to see you. For everyone that's registered to watch us live, keep an eye on your inbox. We'll send you out the private practice checklist ebook. And if you'd like to stream any of our previous conversations, we have a growing library of content there for you, and they are all available on our website where our blogs are kept live. We hope that you enjoyed this conversation, and stay tuned for episode 2, where we will show you and take you through considerations when setting up a new practice. Have a fantastic rest of the week. Thank you.